Yontah pravesha mama vachamimam prashuptam sanjeevayatyakila shaktidhara swadhamma anyamscha hastacharana shravanatvagadim pranannamo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam.
So we will continue our exploration of this beautiful island of the heart called Archanam. I'm sure that many of you had time to think about the topic we discussed last week. So we'll continue it on the same topic, and we'll continue from where we left off. So last week we discussed about Archanam, about the inherent nature of human beings to have little dolls and idols, right? Everyone likes it. So this Archanam, this deity that we're talking about, it's a little different than an idol worship. So there's deity worship and then there is idol worship. We idolize so many people in this world, and that is very different from the deity worship or Archanam that we're discussing today. So one primary difference is that you can take a random statue and you can put it in your home and you can start offering things and having and trying to establish a personal relationship with that statue. But you will notice that in this exploration of Archanam, we are going a little deeper, because normally whenever we worship any deities, what some will call idols, there is a process in which there is a vast difference, because the process of deity worship is when we have, say, a statue of Hanuman. Many of you know Hanuman or Shiva or Krishna. Then what is done is there is a process of invoking the heart of that particular energy, of that deity, of that personality into the statue form. So it is, in Sanskrit, it's called prana pratishtha. So sages, what they do is when they have a deity of their heart and they manifest it through different materials like stone and different metals, then what they do once it's carved out, they actually invoke the deity from their heart, and then the personification of that deity manifests itself in that form of the deity. And then we worship it. And through this, what happens is we develop a personal relationship with the object of love from our heart that has now manifested itself in the form of a deity. So this is a big difference in just worshiping idols and deity worship. One is an idol, another is a deity, where the heart of the personality, who is the object of your heart, is being invited with your heart into the form of the deity, and thereby having a personal relationship with that. Question may be asked, why should we worship deities? Okay, if divine is everywhere, why worship deities? And the sages, they answer this by saying, deities or the divine is to be understood in three dimensions. Of course, there's many dimensions, but let's understand it in three dimensions. One is, in Sanskrit, is called Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, three dimensions. One is, the example is just like the sun. There is the sun, planet, and then there is the sun rays, and then there is the personification, the person who is this embodiment, the sun, is a person. In yoga, we understand sun god, we call it. There is a deity. So there is three dimensions to understanding. Now, in understanding these three dimensions, someone can say, sun is all pervasive. Like there's light everywhere here in Atlanta. But you cannot see the person who is behind the sun. It's not visible to us. We're not able to see the sun. But through the presence of the sun, because there is light everywhere, we know that there is someone behind the sun. So there is the sun planet, like they're trying to go to the moon planet. So moon also is a presiding deity. In yoga we understand it as a demigod. Someone who's almost close to God, but not fully God, is called a demigod. Right? So to understand that there's a personality and they have a place and they have energies. So we are not able to see divine in everything. I mean, it's hard to see divine in say, for example, in filthy places sometimes, or people with very bad qualities. It's difficult. It's hard for us. And when we walk around throughout the day, we cannot see the divine. So therefore, the divine also has the ability to come in the form of the deity, provided that we invoke the divine from our heart, from within our heart, and try to have a personal relationship with the deities. And so then the deities become, in Sanskrit it's called Jagrata Murti. Jagrata means the deity is woken. Like the deity is alive and deity is able to reciprocate with us because you have invited that deity into that, the personality, that God, into that deity form, whoever that object of your love is. So these are the three, I think maybe I've confused you a little bit of understanding the effulgence, the planet, and the person itself. So the sun globe, the rays of the sun, and the sun itself. So these are the three dimensions. So what bhakti yogis tend to do is that we want to have a relationship because we are naturally relationship-seeking creatures. And so we want to have a relationship, and in order to do that, we need to have an object that we can relate to. And so people have deities that they worship. Every yogi, you will see, they make a statue, what we call deity, who is the object of their love in their heart. And then they cook for that object, they pray and they cry, and you'll be surprised. Yogis, they don't have shrinks and counselors and they don't have any requirement all of this, because in their home, they have the object of their heart in the form of a statue, and they actually speak to the statue. I know it sounds a little crazy, right? But the divine is present everywhere. Why can't it be present in the form of the deity? Because you've invited that person to come and reside in that form, and you speak to that form. There's many, many such examples of that in the yoga text. And I give you an example of this deity called Sakshi Gopal. This is a very famous yoga story. It's a deity that was being worshipped by this very, very poor Brahmana, this poor, materially poor, very austere Brahmana. Brahmana means a sage in Vrindavan. And as he was worshipping his deity of Gopal, which is a statue of Krishna, and normally what happens, many people go to pilgrimages to all these holy places or places of where there is a high, dense spiritual energy. You know, like we go on the pilgrimages to Rishikesh, Vrindavan. So this old man had gone, in his elder years, had gone to Vrindavan to visit holy places. And there he found this young Brahmana, young sage who was worshipping his deities. And he asked this sage, please show me Vrindavan. So the sage took him around Vrindavan and took him on a nice pilgrimage for many days and months. And this elderly gentleman was so happy that this young sage took such nice care of him. And he offered this elderly man, offered this young sage, he said, you know, you've been so kind and loving towards me. I don't know how to repay you, but I would like to offer my daughter in marriage to you. I know this sounds a little odd, but in India, your children or your daughters are the most prized possession. And you only give that prized possession to someone who you really, really value and who you really feel that would be able to preserve and nurture and take care of that prized possession. It's a very interesting concept they used to have. And so this elderly man, he said, you know, my daughter is so dear to me, and this person is so loving and kind. How nice it would be for this man to take care of my daughter. So he offered his daughter in marriage to this young sage. And the young sage said, you know, how can I marry your daughter? You're from a very, very wealthy family, and I have no material possessions. I wouldn't know how to take care of her. He says, no, 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 you have the heart. So I would like to offer my daughter in marriage. So he accepted. So this elderly gentleman finally went back home and told his relatives and his children and the villagers that I have offered my daughter in marriage to this sage in Vrindavan, and the marriage has been fixed. So everyone, when they heard this news, they were completely thrown off. You are marrying your daughter off to a man who has nothing, just his little temple and worshiping his deities. So no one wanted to believe that. So then the family members approached this boy, this sage, and they said, you know, I'm sorry, the marriage is off because, you know, our father actually never said that. And it's unbelievable that he would offer his daughter in marriage to you. And they said, do you have any evidence? They wanted to give him a chance. Do you have any evidence that he actually said these things? That he offered his daughter in marriage to you? And the sage said, yes. You know, the only person that was there is my deities. my deity Gopal, which is a form of Krishna. And everyone laughed. He says, how is your deity going to be a witness? This is not possible. And he says, yes, I can assure you, my deity is a witness that, your father had given this word. I said, okay, we'll believe it. Only if your deity comes and personally stands as a witness, then we'll believe it. Then we'll give our daughter in marriage to you. My sister will be married to you, provided, your deity presides as a witness. So this young boy, he goes and he pleads with his deities and he said, you've made this arrangement for this man to offer his daughter in marriage to me. And now there is this confusion where the family doesn't believe it. But I don't have anybody apart from you. You were the only one that was there. So can you please stand as a witness? And in order to be a witness, you're going to have to come all the way to, to South India. This was in the northern part of India where this story takes place. So the deity says, okay, I don't mind being a witness, but how am I going to go to South India? That's far, far away. It takes months and months by walking. And so the young sage said, if you can speak, then you must also be able to walk. Then, so this deity immediately agreed, sure, no problem. You got me there. And so he says, but one condition. The deity said one condition. The condition is that if you turn around and look to see if I'm with you or not, because sometimes what happens is we don't have faith. We know when we're walking, imagine you're walking and your child says, I'm going to follow you. And every 2 minutes you look back to see if he's still following you or something happened, So the deity said, I will follow you, but the minute you turn around and look back, I will stop right there. I won't go any further. So the young sage said, okay, no problem. So that was a deal. And so this deity started following this young sage, and they started walking towards southern part of India, because the elderly gentleman was from southern part of India. So as they started walking, the sage could hear the ankle bells that the deities were wearing. As we were mentioning that in this deity worship in Archanam, the object of our love is worshipped with everything that you would actually offer to the object of your love. For example, if you have a lover in your life, a husband, wife, partner, someone, what do? You make sure they're properly fed, properly clothed, they have a place to stay, there's a roof over their head, you give them shoes, you provide everything for them. So in this way, this deity was worshipped just like this person's object of this person's love. So this deity had beautiful ankle bells. And ankle bells, I'm not sure some of us in America really understand why the need of ankle bells. But in India, women used to wear ankle bells made of gold and silver, and they have a very beautiful rhythm. So when they walk, you almost got a notification, here comes, this beauty queen. In America, we don't have, they just show up, they just walk. Or maybe the cologne, you can tell, oh, someone's coming, but then what if they're not as beautiful as the cologne? You don't know. But imagine this, all women in India used to wear these ankle bells, to sometimes people make jokes. Those who are sages, it was a warning for them to stay away because there was, beauty that was coming their way. But mostly it was to accentuate their presence and their appearance and their value, and also to make an announcement that, here I am, I'm coming. It had many, many significance to the ankle bells that I won't get into it now. And so these deities had beautiful ankle bells. And as this young sage was walking, the deity was also walking behind. And the sound of the ankle bells was creating beautiful music for this young sage. And he kept singing and he kept walking all the way to southern part of India. At one point, he was so engrossed in his singing that he could not hear the ankle bells, which was creating a beautiful rhythm to his singing. And he thought, is my Gopal still following me or not? It was pretty close to the village. And when he started thinking like this, he thought, let me just check. Maybe he's not there because I can't hear the ankle bells. And he turned around and the deity just stopped right there. And then all the villagers were called, and there they noticed that the deity has appeared as a witness, that this man, the elderly gentleman, made this promise to this young sage. So this is one example of how when we do deity worship, when the object of our love is worshipped with love on a daily basis, then there develops a very deep personal relationship. Like here in the monk mode, we also, when we do our morning sadhana, we also have the time. We go to a place next door where we can see the deity form of the divine in the form of Jagannath. And there we offer our gratitude every single day. So in this way, we cultivate this island of the heart of Archanam, where we have an object of love that we can offer our gratitude to and offer whatever it is that we want to offer from our heart. So this is exploring this island of Archanam, how there's a huge difference between an idol worship and deity worship. So we can call it idol worship versus ideal worship. So ideal worship is worshiping the deities who's the object of your love with your heart. Okay, so one more principle that I want to emphasize on this Archanam is the reason the yogis, they emphasize this exploration of this island is like a mirror. When you want to look good, when you want these divine qualities within yourself, in order to see the divine qualities within yourself, what we have to do is we have to look into the mirror, then we can see it. So similarly, if we want to have those divine qualities, Krishna or God or the divine is the mirror. So when we serve the divine, when we take care of the divine, because it is explained, I think, in the Bible that man is made with the image of God, something like that. What is it called?
Man is made in the image of God.
Man is made in the image of God. So if we want to look good, what we have to do is we have to see how to serve the divine and have that relationship. And then all the qualities of the divine will manifest within ourselves and accentuate within ourselves that people can see. So this is another reason the sages are emphasizing the importance of Archanam. The more and more we show love and compassion and dedication in this exploration of Archanam, then deeper our love will grow. There's actually many sages in India, very exotic sages, which I won't get into. But there's one sage, you can look him up. His name is Vamsidas Babaji Maharaj. He's a saint originally coming from Bangladesh. And he used to carry his deities in a basket. And wherever he would go, he would take out his deities and he would have pots and pans and he would cook for his deities and he would offer them. And he would not talk to anyone other than his deities. I know this sounds really crazy. How is it possible a man just talks to his deities all day long? And it's a very small book. A person that followed him and wherever he went, they captured his relationship with his deities. And they wrote this book. I want to say this story is this sage lived maybe approximately 400 years ago. Very unique relationship he had with his deities. Wherever he went, just like children, wherever they go, they carry their dolls with them, even to bed. He had little beds made for his deities. He would put them to sleep. He would wake them up, take them to the Ganga and bathe them and dip them in the Ganga, and he would talk to them and play with them. Very deep relationship he had. So one story that I'll tell you about Vamsidas Babaji, which is quite exotic. And this is a story where one day, he had a little sack filled with his little belongings, his deities, and some cooking paraphernalia for his deities. And one day, the pots that he used to cook for his deities, he had different pots. He would cook for one deity with a separate pot and another separate pot for different deities. Because he wanted to make sure that each one of them had their own pots. So one day, someone stole his pots. Only one set of pots for one of the deities. And he came home and he was going to cook and he noticed the pots were missing because someone had come in and stolen it. So he chastised his deities. He says, you guys are so irresponsible. You guys can't take care of your own things. How am I going to take care of you? And he threw a fit and he says, today, so his deities, one of them was Nitai, one of them was Gora. So he named his deities, right? So he says, Nitai, you could not take care of your pots, so today I'm not going to cook for you. You figure out what you're going to do. I want you to go out and find your pot, and then when you bring it over, then I'll start cooking for you. And he says, Gora, you're such a responsible boy. You took care of your pots. Your belongings are still here. I will make sure I cook your lunch. So he starves one of his deities and he cooks for the other deities. Right? And he feeds one of his deities and the other deity is starving. And then he talks to his deities. You see what happens when you don't take care of your pots? You will not get your lunch. So in this way, he had this relationship. And fair enough, the next day, mysteriously, of course, because deities are these divine beings, mysteriously deity Nitai found his pot and brought it back to the place where this sage was living. He says, see, now you learn to be responsible. When you lose your things, you have to learn to go find it. So Nitai found his pots. And then from next day onwards, he'd also cook for Nitai. So this Difficult to understand. How is this possible? But when you are talking about these deep metaphysical, spiritual platforms, anything is possible. Remember, we were discussing in spirituality, everything is possible. From our material senses, this is impossible. How is it possible these things happen? So there are many, many, many such stories to understand the importance of this Archanam. How, when you have a deity, every house you go to, you'll notice people have a cross. Why do people have a cross? People hang a cross on their neck in their house, inside the churches. Why? Because that is symbol of the divine. If you go to a Jewish synagogue, they worship the book, the Torah. What is that? It is for them the symbol of the divine. And they worship the book. They put the book to sleep and they do a whole ritual with the book. And they do it from their heart. And Christians do the same thing with the cross. They really bow and offer prayers. So in the yoga tradition, they don't just do symbols, they actually make forms of their own deities that are manifested from their heart. I'll give you one last story. I think time is running. Any time? 15 minutes more, so we have time for one more story. This is a story of a sage named Gopal Bhatta Goswami. He was given a stone to worship. And he used to worship this stone as the object of his love. You know, when people give you something, sometimes it has a lot of sentimental value. As all of you are familiar with that? Say if Deb's son gives Deb a little stone, he says, "Mom, this is for you." Deb will hold on to that stone, and the son says, "I worked so hard for this stone. I found it on the banks of the Connecticut River, and it was shining. It was talking to me. Mom, I found this stone, and here's the stone, Mom." And Deb will take the stone and will hold it so dear to her, and she will save it and preserve it till she leaves this material world, because it holds so much value. So Gopal Bhatta Goswami this sage was given a stone to worship. And this was a very, very sacred stone. This stone came from a river in Nepal called Kala Gandaki River, where it is known that there is this one kind of special insect. I forget the name in Sanskrit now. They are architects of carving different forms into the stones. And they carve different forms of different deities into those black stones. So he has this stone that he was worshipping. It's called Shaligram Shila. And he was worshipping the stone as the object of his love, because there were little carvings on the stone. But then, as he was worshipping the stone, he started to develop deeper and deeper desire to decorate this stone with like garlands and put jewelries on it and put a crown on it. And like how you would treat the object of your love. So that desire was being intensified in his heart, and more and more. And because his desire to worship the object of his love with so much detail, that stone all of a sudden became, one day he wakes up, morning he goes to worship his deities, and the stone turns into a beautiful form, two-armed human form of a deity. And that deity is still there in this place called Vrindavan, a city of 5,000 temples. And when you go there, you will see there's millions and millions of people that go every year, every month. And they want to go see this deity. How is it possible? What kind of love is this? It's so intense that a stone can turn into the form of a deity. And now they decorate, put beautiful ornaments on the deity, necklaces, and they put beautiful crowns, and they give him a beautiful flute because he likes to play flute. So this is another example of how when we do Archanam, when we seriously, intentionally, with utter sincerity from our heart and humility, worship the deities with love, then those deities will have this reciprocation. The divine will reciprocate with us. And there are many more stories like this, which I will spare you. When the deities want to be worshipped, when the divine wants to be worshipped, it'll come to you and it'll ask you, hey, many stories. When the deities, over a period of time, when temples get broken down and the deities get buried under the ground, and the deities come in the dream of pure-hearted souls and say, hey, I am in this place. Can you please excavate me and feed me something? It's been a while since someone fed me. So in this way, the divine has the ability to communicate with us from all different places, in all different shapes and forms, provided that we cultivate this sense of humility and purity and sincerity in our hearts. So, I had a few more things, but we'll end it now. Do you all have any questions or thoughts you would like to share? Any one of you guys or anyone online?
I have a question, Veda.
Yes.
The name, could you tell me the name of that sage who had the deities and the pots?
The deities and the pots?
Yeah, the deity who brought the pots back. What was the name of that sage?
Oh, Vamsi Das Babaji. VAMSI space DAS space BABAJI. Vamsi Das Babaji.
What was the middle part again?
Das, DAS.
Okay. Thank you.
No problems. Does anyone else have any thoughts or questions or add anything to this? Yes, Diane.
First of all, I really like this. This is really cool. Coming from a Christian background where like Jesus wasn't worshipped in a statue form. I know he is in some, but I really, really love this topic. It's beautiful. I was curious, if you don't grow up with a tradition of having like a family deity in physical form, is one usually gifted to you? Do you buy one from a specific place?
Beautiful question. This is a very deep question. Normally, the deities are generally given to you by a teacher to worship. And the reason they give you that is because they actually invite the deity, the heart of the deity, into the deity, and they give it to you. So that in Sanskrit is called prana. Prana means life. Pratishtha means to establish. So they invite the heart from their heart. They invite the heart of the object of their heart. Imagine that. With their heart, they invite the object of their love, the object of their heart, into the statue form, into the deity form. And then they worship that deity form. So that is given to you. So yes, you may be one day when you're practicing your sadhana every day, a teacher will come and offer you a beautiful form of the divine for you to have a loving relationship with. I was fortunate when I was young. I used to spend minimum 5 hours a day doing Archanam. And the deity that I used to worship is Narasimhadev, which is the form, a half man, half lion form, who is the personification of removing obstacles in the path of spiritual, in the path of bhakti. And I used to worship him every single day for 5 hours a day as a kid. And I did it for, I want to say, about 12 years. And it was really nice because what that did for me was it created a very deep sense of having my own relationship with this deity form. And, you know, even when first time I went and I had a sprite, you know, which was like a big, huge, you know, like, oh my God, you had Sprite, you know, like everyone talked about it. And I remember when I first about to take a sip of the Sprite, and immediately in my mind, I was thinking, my deities, I haven't offered them the Sprite. And so what used to happen is whatever I ate, I offered it to my deities. Because we were given this training that whatever I ate, whenever we were given like a slate, we didn't have notebooks. So we had slate. You know what a slate is? It's this stone thing and you get a little chalk to write on. None of these millennials really know what a slate is because I think you have to be an old man like me to know what a slate is. So you write it with a chalk and then you can rub it off, you know? So I remember when I got my first slate with a chalk, whatever we got, we first offered it to our deities. So I offered it to Narasimhadev. And then when I got my first, shirt, I offered it to him. Got my first toothbrush, because when we first started off in the monastery, we didn't have toothbrush. We use tree branches.
Black sage.
Yeah. So we use tree branches, neem twigs, and we chew on it. And it becomes a little fiberish. And then we use that to brush our teeth. But when I got my first toothbrush, I was like, wow. Got my first toothbrush and I offered it to my deities. Even my tongue scraper, I offered it to my deities. So, we had a relationship with the deity where everything we got, whatever you gave me, it was first offered to the deities because it was the object of my love. It's someone who meant everything to me at that time. And I wanted to make sure that whatever I got, the deities also had it. So it is a way to deepen one's relationship with the divine through this Archanam process. And especially when we're young and we have a pure heart, imagine our children, we give them, if you have a daughter, you give them a nice little kitchen set, so they can pretend to cook and do all of that. When we were little young, we had little deities to worship, had our own little, I didn't need, Barbie dolls and whatever else people play with. I had my own little deities that I would worship every day and take care of. So those are a beautiful relationship that one can develop through this process. Thank you all very much. Please have a wonderful day. And those in Europe, please have a good night. Namaste, everyone.